everyone to the second stream that I've put together, or will attempt to cover. Yeah, so hope you can all hear me all right. Let's check. Yeah, it looks like the audio is working. All right. Well, thanks for everybody who's joining us. Last one was actually quite fun. So thanks for coming along. And I moved my screen to the right, so hopefully that works better for After Effects and stuff like that. There was a bunch of other questions submitted, as I've shared the forum, and I think it's been shared around in the Slack channels and stuff. And some really good questions actually, and I'm trying to compile them almost per project. And one of the ones that we touched a little bit, I think, last time, but there were a few other questions regarding this project that I did with Raphael. So it's this project for ColorScope. It's a CNN project. And there's a few things in this project that I kind of thought it might be cool to cover as tips and tricks. First one being that section. So a few of you asked, oh, how do you do that with Element 3D? Because I think I mentioned that on the last stream. So I have to say, before I even open the After Effects project, that I am no Element 3D expert by any means. It was probably the second time I used it. So I'm sure it's not properly used in many ways, but you know, so it goes. All right, so let me jump in and I'll open the After Effects file for this. Which it is kind of heavy, but hopefully it will work. I also tried to rearrange my my layout for my After Effects to make it a bit closer to my dual screen. Hopefully it works. And you'll notice actually that since last time, I'm not actually using FT Toolbar anymore, because there's this new thing called K-Bar. And the main reason why I changed to that one is because I heard that they are discontinuing basically the updates for FT Toolbar, and K-Bar is kind of newish, very new actually, and basically has the same capabilities and even more. And we can cover that maybe in a little bit because I think someone else asked that. All right, so I'm just gonna jump into my After Effects file for CNN. And I like to separate my pre-comps as smart as possible in terms of like, this is the intro, there's the mid section, then there's another section, and then there's the ending. So there's basically 4 main comps that make up the whole project. But first, you'll notice I'm working on quarter resolution because it can get pretty heavy. So I'll go into my intro, and I think I showed you this before, but like right now it's getting cluttered with comps open. So I'm just gonna right click here, close other panels and group to just single that comp so it doesn't get too messy. Select all. Oh, I forgot to enable the keystroke effect. And also I wanna hide my bar. Anyway, nobody we'll miss nothing there. I just don't like having the time, especially when it's in a later playback. All right, so let's jump on how that leaf was done. So this whole section is basically concentrated in all these layers. So I'm just gonna solo these. And one of them is called, is it this one? Yeah, this is the comp where everything is in it. And here I have all my different layers that I broke into in Illustrator. You know, all the arms were separated, or arms, branches that were previously fingers, because if you know the transition goes from fingers to trees. And all of these are actually the same. All my leaves, I only have 2 kinds of leaf. I have a leaf A and a leaf B. This is a leaf A, and this would be a leaf B. and then based on only those two comps, so I guess there's leaf A long as well, it has a longer stem. But based on that, I animated them all and just linked them just with those two comps. Okay, so that's what the inside looks for the tree section. And then, so basically that was singled out as a one layer. And separately, basically on top of everything else, I had my element 3D. So I'm just gonna solo this so you can see it alone. So basically, you know, it's just an adjustment. It was just a solid. That is the size of the comp. And then I added my element 3D, which is from Video Copilot. And it allows you to bring OBJs into After Effects. And it's super handy. I've only used it a couple times, but the couple times I've used it, it's been really awesome. So I'm just gonna show a bit of my scene setup inside here, element 3D. So I had my model leaf inside Cinema, which was, you know, very simple. And then what I did was to add a few flat textures. And they were actually based on the materials here. I just used the flat texture that was in the gallery, and I basically just changed the colors. And then I realized that at one point I was gonna change the textures because I actually flipped them from like darker to lighter. So I connected it to a custom layer. In this case, custom layer 3. And what that does is basically it links your texture to an actual comp inside your After Effects. In this case, I have the texture of the cylinder, which really just changes from white to green. And then I have the texture for the left side of the leaf, which is according to the UV map here. So you see it at this point it changes, and I'll show you why I did that. And then there's the other one for the right side of the leaf, which is basically the same as the left one. Great. So then what I did is, like, once I had this, what you can do with Element is just create a null for it. So that's exactly what I did. I created a null, which is here. So this null basically controls my element 3D, and I can move it, I can rotate it. Oh, wrong one. Give it to me. Yeah, so this is the leaf. And then basically what I did is connected that null to another null that is up here that is called a leaf rotator. And all that null does is it moves in Y position down, as well as have a bit of a rotation. So if you can see the null here, I'll show you the exact movement that it's doing. So it's moving low and rotating it a bit to kind of give that idea of waving. And you know, there's no physics involved or anything, so I had to do it a few times until it kind of felt right, as most things that I do. You know, a lot of trial and error. So that's kind of how it happened. And you see here, so it starts on one side being white, and then in the other side was this texture. And then by this point, when we saw the other side again, that's why I animated the texture, so I could click, or I could, you know, cut to the new texture on that other side. And then basically that was it. And then to create the bend effect, Element has that option for the bending. Let's see if I can find it. So it's called, it has twist, which I used a little bit, and it also has the bend. So I used both, and I kind of just played around with it. I mean, it's not perfect, but it does the trick, especially for what I needed, which is very simple. I really just wanted at this point in frame to be able to see both sides, and that was done through the twist and the bend. And you can pretty much apply that. I mean, your mesh needs to be fairly, you know, clean in order not to break. And then that was it really. And then one thing that I had to do, which I will show you. So I'm gonna make this 100. So no matter what my keyframes are, it's 100. So when it lands here, right? Which, you know, I was like, okay, that works, that's fine. And then I showed it to Raphael, whose original design was, let me see if I can find it here. One second. Yeah, so the original design for the leaf looked like this. And he really liked the way that looked. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yes. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. I'll fix it. Even though I said I wasn't gonna do it, I still did it. So what I did for that part, instead of going into 3D and like changing and rigging, whatever, I was like, that's gonna take longer than just going and basically, not necessarily frame by frame, but almost fixing that section by overlaying a new leaf on top. So at this moment, basically, I can hide the old one. I'm just gonna delete that expression that I put. So at this moment, the old element 3D cuts out, and this is the new one. And the new one is basically just a collection of shapes and masks. So this is for the lines, this is the right side, this is the lines of the other side, and that one, and just a mask. And I still use the movement of the element as a guide. And I actually have a posterize layer over everything that makes everything 12 frames per second. So and that's how it ended. So this whole section is basically frame by frame, and it didn't actually take that long. It took like maybe an hour or so, which is actually not even, but regardless, it was way faster than probably re-rigging the leaf just to create that movement in that section. And it's not perfect, but it kind of added a weird transition in that moment, which I ended up liking it. So that's how that leaf was done. So fairly straightforward, I think. I mean, if you haven't played with Element, I recommend it, especially to make 2D looking things into kind of like a 3D space, and the ability to connect that to a null. It's very helpful. Yeah, so I think that question was asked by a couple of you, Nick, Armenta, and I can't remember who else it was. But there you go. So hopefully that explains how that section was done. And now while we're at this video, we did cover the transition to the kind of like the heartbeat monitor last time. But there was another question about this project, which was on the book branch, which I think I might have, I can't remember if I covered it or not. So it's this part. Let's see, where's my book? There you go. So here's the comp for the book. Someone was asking, there were a couple questions regarding here. One was how the flipping book was done, and the pages, which I will show is very simple. And then the other one was how this transition was created, which I think I covered it, and please stop me if I have. I don't quite remember it. But I'll start with the flipping book, which is very simple. I mean, it's not the cleanest way of doing it, but it worked for what I had to do. So it's basically just shape, and it has, it's not quite frame by frame, but there's a lot of frames in there to kind of like just playing with the path. So that's one page, and it actually changes color a little bit. And I use this as a base, that was my pre-comp, and I was able to time remap it and use it as needed. And sometimes they overlapped a little bit, so I just had to cut it and add the new one on top. But that was basically it. It's very simple. It's the same movement. reused and reused. So that's how that part was done. And then this part, there was a lot of masking involved. Like this is pretty much frame by frame because it's not built, like that was a flat book in the back. So there were a bunch of parts here that I had to basically do frame by frame, just, which again, I thought it would be just faster to do it this way than to like try to match the perspective, which didn't exist because it's not built on a real perspective. So that's kind of how the design was done, and this seemed like the fastest, most efficient way, for me at least, to do it. And then there's a few cuts here. So then I did build a book in 3D as a reference, which is really just a box, a green box. I don't know if I deleted it. I might have deleted it since I didn't need it anymore. Yeah, I think I did. But basically, it was just a 3D box. I mean, 2.5D, so it's all flat. It might be here actually. Yeah, it is here. So I have this cube. So this was really just a box inside After Effects with all the sides, and it's perfectly square. And I just scaled it as needed in this. So you can scale the Z or the Y. And then I just use that as a reference, even though apparently I still kept that as a base actually. I thought I only used it as a reference, and then I only added shapes where I need it. And it's not a perfect transition, but it does the trick. So that's from the book to the branch. So it's a fairly straightforward one, I think. And yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. I think that was Zechariah. I don't know if he's here. Are you there? Say yes. Say no. I'm trying to make this more fun. It must be really boring to just listen to me talking about After Effects. So maybe I'll start cracking some Andrew Kramer jokes, but that probably won't fly. All right, so one more about this project. Actually, I think that might cover it. Oh, there's one at 47 to 51 seconds. How do you do the eyes transition? So it's around here, which is kind of a fun one actually. I didn't really know how to do that part, so I did some experimentations, and I quite like the way it turned out actually. So this is all inside the eye still. So I had basically one comp just to go from the circle into the moon and then into the eye, which was very fun. So it's very fast, as you can see, but like that same circle basically just goes in the back and just clicks to go behind it. And then I'm assuming you're asking about the iris stuff, which is the part that we'll jump in. So what I did is basically I created one single comp, and what I did was basically just it was just one single shape, right? This is all just one shape, and it has this stroke. There's no really a reason behind it other than like once I added the mirror, I wanted to create kind of like this this mirroring side, and that seemed to be the shape that worked the best using the mirror effect, which I've been using a lot lately actually, especially when you need to do, you know, things that are completely isometric and not isometric. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yes, maybe not. Yes, but yeah, that works pretty well, and it's really handy. You can even use like mirrors upon mirrors, and you can create weird stuff, you know, like it's quite fun to go crazy with mirrors, and the stuff that it creates it's really very, you know, it uses a very simple really basis, and then you can go crazy. And then what I did basically, I say basically a lot, don't I? Basically, I just went and rotated all this by a matter of, actually I'll show you how exactly I did that, because that's kind of like a handy tip. I'm sure there are scripts to just like how many rotations, whatever. The way I do it is I just say, I mean, I could connect this technically to a slider, but in this case I just multiply 24 by index in the rotation. And index is really just this number, the number of the layer in the comp. So they're all going to be different. 24 times 14, 24 times 13. So if I delete all this, let's say this one is, you know, index times 24. And then I can just do that as many times as I want. And then that's it. That's a very easy way. And then another way to do it, it will be to, you know, it will probably be the smartest way to do it, is to like add a slider control. And then what I would do to this expression is, instead of 24, I would connect it to the slider. And then, so the slider should be, I don't know, I can do a whole bunch. And then the slider can control the rotation of it. How many times? There's a wonky one there that I think I forgot to add the expression. Yeah, that one. But yeah, so that's kind of how you can do this type of stuff. Again, I'm sure there is an expression, I mean a script to do it easily, but this is kind of how I've always done it. And it seems to be working pretty well for me. So in this case it was 24, and I just added as many as I needed to create the full. And now, because, you know, all those movements that I had, it just makes it for like a really interesting looking thing. I actually posted something on Twitter when I was working on this that was like all black and white, because it looked so interesting, and there's a complexity to this. I was like, that, you know, you don't necessarily know much about like what the end result is going to look like. I mean, I had 2 frames. I knew that this is where it began based on what Raphael had done. But then you could just, you know, go crazy and add, you know, see if I add here and add here one, and then I put another one here. Back here is going to look all weird and cool. And I could even make it like round, and it's also going to create something cool. So there's like this, you know, it's just like this beauty of the simple math of repeating it and repeating it. So that's how I did that. Hopefully that answers that question. And maybe there were some little nuggets there that were helpful. Yeah, so there's questions. Joe, thanks Joe. Hi Joe. He's kind of filtering them, and then he'll send them to me. So before I jump into the next project, which is the Design God project I did, there were a bunch of questions about that one. I'm gonna take some time and answer some of these. So first one, someone asks, why do you use the post-ride time effect? Is it to help simulate the style of animation? Yes, basically. So sometimes there's certain styles that that they lend themselves to like be very smooth, but sometimes they actually kind of look better when they're like 12 frames per second. So what I do is, like, my comps are always 24 frames per second, but if I wanted to play like maybe certain sections of the video, I want it to be on 2s, so I'll do it at 12 frames per second with the post-rest time then. And sometimes there'll be like one transition. I actually think I might have done that here in some areas in the intro, I think. No, it's all 12. But sometimes I'll change it from 12 to like 24 just for one transition, because that transition needs to be very fast. I don't know if there's, it's a matter of just like, just preference really. I mean, for this project, I thought it looked cooler at 12. So yeah. The second question was, well, thanks Joe. Does the effect work with 3D layers and the mirror effect on the eye? Yeah, it should. I mean, why don't we try it right now? So let's say all this, we're gonna make them 3D. And then inside, oh, the mirror effect doesn't work with 3 layers. I just answered your question. Yeah, that's, yeah, I guess it doesn't, because it doesn't know exactly where the middle is, which makes sense. But for that case, what I would do is, instead of doing the mirror effect, for example, I would just actually pre-comp this and then do a old style mirroring. This is not perfect, this is just for the purpose of the video. So I'm just pre-comping and scale on both sides. Let's say that this is it, and if this were 3D, then I should be able to, that should work. And I could even make this rotated in a funny way. Let's say this one's 40, and this would be minus 40. And if I go here into my custom view, it should create a 3D-ish version of that. So it's, I mean, it's not perfect, but you could trick it, I guess, by just masking it. But this is kind of cool, actually. Anyway, that's one way of doing it, I guess. This, I mean, at that point, you might as well just do it in Cinema. I sometimes make the mistake of just trying everything in After Effects before moving into Cinema, and then realizing that I could have done it so much easier and faster in Cinema. But you know, that's so that's the way it is. Another question: would it not be easy to use a shape repeater? Yes, the shape repeater is great, but it doesn't really create the same mirror effect. For those who don't know what the shape repeater is, so let's go in here, and I'm gonna add a repeater into my path options, which is the thing about a repeater is that it doesn't create any type of, like, it doesn't cut out the actual pieces exactly what your path is. And what I like about the mirror is that it kind of crops things out and it enables some things to kind of like move into frame and out of frame just by the virtue of the mirroring. So let's say that we don't want it to move, we just want it to rotate. And yeah, so you can do this kind of stuff. But again, it doesn't quite work as well. I mean, this is gonna look crazy. Let's see. What happened? Oh. So not 3D. Crazy stuff. I want to see how this looks now. What? That is just bananas. Anyway, you can go crazy with this kind of stuff. It's quite fun to play around with. One more. How do you lock the thickness of the stroke of a shape layer? It changes when you scale up, down. I don't know if I covered this expression before. It's, but I'll just cover it again because it's something I use pretty much every day. I'm just gonna start a new project here. This is getting messy, and I don't want to mess anything up. So let's say we got a pre-comp, and in here, I've actually been using quite a bit Saunders or Boros for just the main shapes that you can create. In this case, I'm just gonna create a line. Boom. Now let's say my line, I want it to be a bit bigger. And I want that no matter what the scale happens, it stays the same width. So what I go inside the shape, and you can search within layers. So I'm gonna press width, sends me to the stroke width. And then here I have a K-bar just for that, which is the maintain stroke width. And I can show you exactly what the expression is. Maintain stroke width. So this is the expression, and it is in that spreadsheet that is being shared around. I think someone posted on the comments already the link. So yeah, I just go and wrong one. Hit the stroke width, and then no matter the scale, you know, it stays the same. And one thing to note about this is that whenever you go to 0, it kind of gives you an error. So what I do is go to 0, 1, or 0, 0, 1, so you don't get that. And that's it. So, all right, let's move on to the next project, which is the Designing God project I did, designed by the amazing Chris Anderson, which I should be working with right now, but you know, I let him do everything else, and I'm just gonna chat with you guys for a bit. Hopefully he's not watching it. If you are, hi Chris. I don't think he is. It's all good. Okay, so let me open that project. And someone asked, how do you manage to keep the projects not that heavy? I must say from the get-go that I don't. I don't do anything. It's just they're very heavy. And sometimes it's like I'm working at like 12 resolution with one solo layer, and then render everything and hope that everything works, and then redo it based on the render, because it's impossible to preview at that point. Okay, where is it? Oh yeah, I think it's in my backup folder already. It's probably gonna be a whole bunch of stuff missing, but hopefully it's all right. Intro, final. Sorry, I should be showing you this. This is pretty, it's not as clean as it should be, but it's cleanish. So that's only shot 1 to 10. This is video animation V25. That's the one. I think so. It's probably, like I said, it's probably going to be a few things missing. Okay, someone just asked, what's the video you like best on Vimeo lately? I can talk about today. And I posted it on the Slack and posted it on Mixed Parts. By the way, do you guys know Mixed Parts? I don't know. Most of you probably do. It's this community forum. I mean, you have the Slack with all the people in the class, but this one is kind of like more industry related, and people post things. Anyway, I just posted that about Andrew Vuka's reel. That's the best thing I've seen today, and he's amazing. Anyway, this guy's crazy, so check him out. So that answers that question, and this is still opening. Yay! Okay, that is not right. It says it's taken an hour and 23 minutes to open the project. All right, well, how are you guys doing? I don't know why that's taking so long. It's taken long, but not that long. Like that's just ridiculous. I don't know what's happening. Oh, 2 hours, great. It's just going higher. Well, let me see if I have a earlier version. That oh, there you go. I mean, I should get a better computer. I have a MacBook Pro, but anyway, thanks After Effects. That was not 2 hours, not even close. But hey, I'm not complaining. All right, so yeah, there should be some stuff missing. So sometimes when I'm like about to render everything, I actually do patches. So this sequences that you see missing here, those are like the full on TIFF sequences of the project, and then I can just like, you know, I don't have to re-render the whole thing again. So I can just focus on the parts that need patching. So like these little patches here are the ones that I rendered on top of the sequence. Anyway, that's a side thing. I'm gonna go inside. Now let's see, where are we? Oh, that's the intro. This is what we want. So my master comp. And the one that was asked quite a bit was about the fish section, which I believe was shot maybe 16. This is going to be very slow. I apologize. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's this one. Yes, it is this one. So there you go, you know, like that's how I'm working right now. I can't even see a thing. I'm just guessing where things are based on the sizes of the things. Anyway, hopefully I can single out this one. I need to. No, I don't even have. Anyway, let's let it load for a bit there. I mean, it's really just two shapes. There you go. So what I did for many of this, I should probably show you the big shot as a reference, but it's gonna take a little while to load. So let me load the actual image. One second. Oh, there you go. So this is the big fish shot. I mean, there's so many little things that I did for this shot that I'm gonna try to remember them all. But I mean, I even had like a green screen for everything, and I have a reason for this. So basically, I had a pre-comp that was all the animation inside, and it was all as a design were. But then I wanted the whole shot to have the fish kind of like moving overall. So what I did was I basically created this. I put a puppet tool on it to be able to kind of like move it around. Sorry, it's all connected to expression, so it's gonna break badly here. But basically, I had the puppet tool for this whole comp to kind of like give the wavy movement that I wanted by moving this guy. So this is the main shape movements. That is just those nulls are basically just controlling the puppet tools. And the reason why I did the green screen is so I can key it out. But basically, the puppet tool is grabbing the entire comp, because sometimes when you have things that go outside what was initially meshed with the puppet tool, then it creates some weird stuff around. I don't know if I'm making any sense. If you use a lot of puppet tool, you know what I'm talking about. But sometimes I do that just to simplify that process and not have any weird stuff that shouldn't be there. So let's say, so we had the original design, which obviously had a lot of these guys. So instead of animating each, I created a handful of those. So let's go inside this comp that has them all. So I have my scale A, scale B, scale C, and then I have my scale cut, and then my scale small, and those are basically the main ones. And you'll see that I made them all black and white, and I'll explain shortly why. So this is no keyframes. Well, this one is the one on the top, but below here is I'm just using the wave warp to just create kind of like that movement. Originally, that shape just looks like that. So we have the wave warp for my base gill. That was used for pretty much all of them, for pretty much all my scales. And then what I did on top was, like Chris Anderson came up with like, oh, let's just texture everything by adding a dissolve blending mode. So it's really just a blur thing with a dissolve blending mode. And you can do dancing dissolve, which changes every frame. And I had that for some parts, but most of the time it was just too busy. So in this case, what I did was, I used just a displacer, turbulent displace, to kind of like, because right now that texture didn't move as much as I wanted, so I used a displacer turbulent to kind of like make the dissolve move at the speed that I wanted, that it wasn't as fast as the dancing dissolve. So I did that for the A, for the B, for the C, and then the cutout was basically the same, but it had this thing on top. And you'll notice that everything was black and white or grays, and the reason was simply so I can use a tint effect on top of everything on each according to the colors. So these are all the original colors, but then this one, I just disable all the effects, which is this guy, because the color is being added by an effect. So in this case, I'm just, where is it? So that one was all purple. This one, that one is also all purple. This one had 3 colors, so I'm using the tritone. So it's using the fully white, 50% white, and fully black. And it's the end result would look like that. So basically, I only use like those 3 main pre-comps, so I wouldn't have to animate each. And then, since the only difference with them was mostly colors, I just used the tint effect for them. This one had that extra thing that just moves. It's just a loop of a shape moving. So that's basically how all those were done. And I mean, it's definitely, it gets really heavy really quick, especially with the dissolve effect. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it started looking fully complete. Someone just asked, I'll answer that one right now. All right, well, there's been a lot of questions now. But I'll ask this one first. I'll answer this one first. What are you taking into consideration when you decide when to rasterize the layers or not? You know, I used to want, when I started animating, I always wanted all my layers to be rasterized. If you ask me why, I have no idea. Like, I think like there was this idea that it was just higher quality. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But now I rarely do it unless I absolutely have to. Like, if there is a reason why I want, like, for example, if I'm going to be scaling that layer a lot, or if there's a certain vector inside that layer that I will be reusing and reusing. But the thing about I only use it when I need to is because if I were to like rasterize this ones, well, actually exactly this ones that I'm using the transparent thing, it would completely break because it would try to do transparent to everything underneath and not just the layer. So let's see. Actually, it didn't break that bad because it's just noise on top. But normally it would, it would be pretty disastrous because of the transparent. I don't know what the name of this one is. Does anyone know what is this? Preserve underlying transparency, whatever that is. So when you use that and then use continuous rasterize, it uses the underlying of all the layers and not just of that comp, so it gets pretty complicated. So yeah, it's really in a case by case, depending where I need it and if there's 3D that needs to be translated and whatnot. Another interesting little texture of this one. Oh, actually, no, before I jump into that, because that was pretty much the same. Someone also asked about masking and any tips on that. And I do a lot of masking usually, especially for this kind of projects where there's a lot of overlapping. And the best advice that I can give is to like keep things as clean as possible, because when you're masking things, it's gonna get messy quickly. And I'm actually just gonna start a new one because this will be too slow. So let's say I have a circle here. And I will call this circle 01, and then I'll have a second one, it'll be circle 02, and this one will be here, and then I'll have a third one that will be here. And basically let's say that I want each circle to overlap with one another and each overlap to be a different color. All right, that's, for some reason, that's what my design looked like, and I decided to make my life miserable in After Effects. Now, the best way that I would do it, well, the way that I would do it, and this is learning by a bit of different options that I've tried in the past, would be to like, let's say all these are moving somehow. I'm just gonna add I don't know. We'll just do a little wiggle, I guess. Whatever, 50 common font. Just so we know they're moving. Oh, sorry, I meant 5,50. That's the 501. so they really overlap. So let's say all these are, you know, animated in the way that we actually want them to be animated, and we still want the overlaps to be all different. So that what I would do, what actually is there's this thing called copy with property links, or with relative property links. Relative, you know, it'll keep the nulls that you had and stuff. But I'm gonna copy with property links all this, and I'm basically gonna create a new solid, and I will pre-compose this new solid. It needs to be the same size as the other one, and I'm gonna call this intersections 01 to 02, right? So I'm gonna go inside here, and I don't need this anymore. And I'm just gonna paste it. And because I had copy with property links, basically After Effects connects every single property that you have through expressions to that main comp. So this will move exactly the same as my main comp here, right? So great, that's awesome. But and then basically what I do is, all right, well, this intersection, it's gonna be this one, and this one is not even gonna be in the game, because this is just the intersection between 1 and 2. And then here's the intersection between 1 and 2. And let's say that the color for this one is gonna be whatever, darker pink. Great, so that's one intersection done, and then I'm gonna duplicate this comp. Well, I'm not just gonna duplicate it here. I'm actually gonna duplicate it in the main project, and I'm gonna drag this one in, and this one will be intersection between 2 and 3. So let's undo all this. So it's this one and this one, and I don't even need that third one. So that one's the one that intersects there, and again I'm gonna change the color for that part. Let's say it's gonna be darker yellow. And then I have to do it one more time, because you know there's 3 possible intersections. I mean, you could go more and more. You can go between intersection 2 and 3 and 2, like you can go deeper and deeper. But the fact that they're all linked, it's gonna make my life much easier. So this one will be intersection 1 and 3. Normally I wouldn't name them numbers. Maybe letters will be better, because numbers can get complicated. And in this case, I believe it will be this one and this one. We'll find out if I did that right. And this one will have a separate color that, let's say, it's going to be dark blue. And hopefully I covered all my bases. Yeah, so there you go. So like that's kind of like how you create these little intersections and overlappings, and it can get pretty complicated pretty quickly. And in this case, actually, you know, why not? Let's do one extra that is going to be between intersection 2, 3, and 1, 2. So I'm just going to duplicate this 2, pre-comp them, intersection crazy, because I don't feel like naming them correctly right now. And that one is going to have even a, you know, let's say a different color, and that will be on top of everything. So this one is intersecting, well, nothing yet. Well, let's say, where's here? So here we have our bases, we have the main intersection, secondary intersection, and then a third one. And you know, like I said, it can get really busy really quickly. And the only thing about the property links is that if all of a sudden I decide to add an effect to this one, that's not gonna add it on the other ones. All I copied was the existing property. But the cool thing about this is that if I decided to like scale my master one all the way here, it's gonna maintain all those intersections because everything is linked and it's all using the main comp as a guide. So I don't need to like relink anything. Yeah, so I think most challenges can be solved with simple solutions. You just need to be creative on which simple solution to use. Well done. Well said, I should say. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of these things is not like, oh, how can you come up with this? Like, because I know that's how I felt when I saw people coming with solutions like, oh, how do you come up with that? Like, how do you think of that? I was like honestly, it's just by like banging your head against the desk for a long time until you can think of something that makes more sense. And usually, you know, like when you're in the middle of a project, it's kind of like harder to come up with the solutions because you can easily waste a lot of time. But you know, you can do a little bit for this project, and then when you finish, you realize, oh, you could have done it better. And then when that problem comes back again, you can kind of add to that solution. And that's kind of how I come up with the solutions most of the time. Yeah, so that's a question about masks that someone was asking, that hopefully it helps. And I mean, again, if I'm sure there might be a better way to do this, and this is kind of like the way I've solved things most of the time. I mean, it would be nice if we could just look at an overlap effect or whatever, but I don't know how you control that. Cool. Well, let's say we have time for one more. This goes so fast nowadays. It's fun, guys. Thanks for coming. Can't believe you do all this with a MacBook Pro. Well, yeah, me neither. It's just very handy and portable. I used to be a PC guy all the way, and then somehow I switched along the way. Mostly because I wanted a light, portable laptop that was powerful enough. I know there's another ones out there. Anyway, we can talk about that later. Let's see, texturing covered, moving textures covered. Yes, there's one person that asked about a rotating fish in 3D, which you will see it's not rotating in 3D. So it's around 154, I believe. Oh no, it can't be. 42 seconds. Actually, there was another one that I don't know if I covered last time. Did I cover last time about the waves in the fish shot? I don't think I covered it. I don't have it marked here. No, I don't think so. Okay. So someone asked me about the fish. How did I did this transition from this fish? And for reference, I will play it. I know this is the simple fish. Full fish. So these things on the side, they were just reference images. So that was my starting point. And this is my endpoint. I use guide layers a lot to reference what I'm gonna do. Basically what I did for this is, okay, this is frame A and this is frame B. And you know, like Chris didn't necessarily give me any in-betweens, and he didn't even necessarily think that we're gonna transition smoothly from one to the other. But I thought it might be cool to try it out. So basically I just went element by element, trying to move them one from the next. And this is what the transition actually looks like. Yeah, so I started with the eye, and then I went like down from there. And a few things, like they're kind of wonky the way they, like those gills, for example, they kind of like leave us without necessarily going anywhere. But it worked. And here's actually a great example of how I use those overlapping effects for the eyes. But let's break it down a bit, if my computer allows us. So let's say with the body didn't change much, but let's play with the texture of the body. So as you can see, there's a lot of layers just for this, and it gets complicated very quickly. But let's say this is half of the body, and this one just goes away. And then the other half of the body, this is just the actual noise. here's the other half with the noise, and then that one will move fully to fill the frame. And then there's another half, which is the yellow half, that will come in, and that will move to make the divide. So that's just for the body. Then the fin, this is the fin that actually just goes away, no big deal with that one. Then there's this one that was part of the, I guess, the other fin. Anyway, like it kind of like, it just keeps adding and adding, and I just went one by one. Like for example, the dorsal was just kind of using the paths to kind of create this flip. And then same for the other side to kind of like almost create depth there. And then one has different color, so it just goes there, and it actually goes from solid orange to like a different color. And yeah, so on and on, I just went one by one until I could do them all. And then for the eyes, basically they both come from the middle, from the original eye, and then one comes from the bottom. So there's a lot of color shifting and using the tint and stuff to be able to finalize the transition. And it took a long time, but I mean, and it's only there for whatever 20 frames, but I just think little things like that, are worth playing with to create an interesting transition. Cool. Well, yeah, I don't know, like, let me see if we have some time for like some of those questions. When are you gonna start doing this bi-weekly? I don't know if I can ever. It's I should probably be working right now. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a lot of fun, but I don't know if I can do it more than once a month. Someone asked what's on your K-bar, and I can quickly show that. I mean, I've just started working on it, actually. I forgot his last name, Patrick, had some icons for K-bar that I used, but then I changed them a bit because I like my arrows, but they were inspired in his. I have my loop out, I have loop path. So basically paths, you can't just add a loop out, you need to add this special expression. Continued loop, ping pong, maintain my stroke width, separate scale, so this is just creates an expression to separate X and Y very easily. These are all in the spreadsheet, should be. Time reverse keyframes, this is a handy one, just like, flip the order of your keyframes very quickly. Maintain scale, which we covered last time. Expose shape layers. And these ones are kind of like more specific for some projects, like I had a project that I had to like create so many different comps with different text animation. So I would just duplicate and replace. So what it did is, it just duplicated that comp, replicated that comp on the project, added a number to the end, and then replaced it with the layer that was duplicated. So it was just when you need to like duplicate them a lot, and each one needs to be unique somehow. Posterized time, parameter converter, which is Kyle Martinez. I actually haven't used it much yet, but I had it there. And then this is from his parameter converter circle and rectangle. And yeah, you should check the stuff that he's doing because he loves his code, right? I don't know, he's probably not here. But hi, Kyle. Oh, it looks like my computer's gonna be dying soon. I guess I've been using a lot of power from it. Anyway, we'll we can cover more questions later. I don't want my battery to just die halfway through a sentence. Oh, one last one. Why do you use Dropbox over Google Drive? I use both actually, but I like I find the syncing being much more logical in Dropbox, and be able to create backup folders that are not linked to my computer with Dropbox, just being much easier. And it just looks nicer when you share it with clients and stuff, which is what I use. I don't know, side thing. Maybe one more. When are you gonna start doing how long you take this all together? Wow, lots of questions. You know what? It might be cool to like next one, instead of focusing on After Effects, we can focus more like more industry related stuff. Because I hear some questions about like freelancing and full time and a few things like that. So we can talk about that next time. But for now, I think that's it. I hope there were some helpful tips here. And yeah, if you keep having questions, keep them coming, and I'll try to answer them next month, hopefully. So yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for listening in, and have a great, awesome day. Bye.